Hi everybody, it's Jon Glougie again with Left Financial IA Private Wealth. In fact, I'm one of the associate portfolio managers here at Left Financial. For those of you who know me, good to see you again, or good for you to see me again. And for any of you who I've never met, great to meet you. Today we're going to be talking about financial yoga. And why it's important in today's environment is because I'm sure we're all feeling a little stretched, right? Inflation has gotten a little out of hand over the last couple of months. I'm sure we've noticed the price at the pump, the price at the grocery store, the price of everything has gone up. And for any of us who have that variable rate debt on the other side, whether we have a mortgage or whatever that may look like, we're feeling the pinch on that side as well, because interest rates have climbed aggressively to try to catch up with inflation. So we have probably less disposable income to spend in today's environment than we have in the last 30 odd years. And in these sort of environments, we have to have a combative strategy to say, okay, we're feeling stretched. I need to stretch back. I need to still navigate these waters. And that's what today is all about. So put on your financial Lululemons and let's get stretching. So step one with financial yoga is step one with any sort of financial planning. It's goal setting. We got to know what we're trying to do before we get going, because if we don't know what we're trying to do, how do we know if we ever accomplish it? So again, step one of financial yoga, find out how much stretching we want to do. Find out the goals. First goal, that has to be sort of a commonality amongst all of this, is we have to be saving ultimately for retirement. So I think that's a commonality amongst most people, though. Most people don't have the desire to work until they're 6 feet under. They would like to at some point kick up their heels and enjoy the rest of their lives without going to work. So if we have that in common, let's start there. We got to save for retirement. We may at the same time want to save for our major purchase, whether that be a first-time home buyer, something like that. You want to maybe pay off debt, and maybe you want to save for your kids' education. But if you want to do all of these things, or a combination of these different things, and we only have the same dollar to use, this is where we're going to incorporate some financial yoga. So again, we're going to start with step one, the assumption that we all want to retire one day. So by that, I'm saying we can all use an RRSP, because what is an RRSP? It's a personal pension plan. We put money into an RRSP so that one day in the future, we can take the same money back out at a lower tax bracket and enjoy it and help fund our retirement with it. So if we all have that in mind, let's think about what the RRSP is and how it works. For anybody who gets taxes deducted off their income at the source, it means that you're using after-tax dollars to save for things like retirement, or to pay down your debt, or to buy your first home, or save for kids' educations, things like that. So if we use an RRSP and we're using after-tax income, we can throw the dollar into the RRSP, have the dollar deducted off that income, but because we've already been taxed on it, we now, because we put it into the RRSP, get a tax refund from that dollar. We get the tax back. We should have never been taxed on it because we put it into a personal pension plan. Now with the RRSPs here in Canada, we're manipulating the marginal tax brackets that we have available to us. So in other words, not every dollar is taxed the same. For every dollar we earn, we climb up the tax bracket ladder. So if we can put a dollar into the RRSP and they allow us to deduct it off our income, what we're really doing is climbing back down the tax bracket ladder. But again, we've paid taxes all the way up. So when we climb down the tax bracket ladder, they just keep giving us refunds. They, being the government, keeps giving us refunds. Every single step back down the tax ladder we go. So if we want to save for retirement, the first thing we can look at is for that individual who wants to save for retirement and pay down, say, their mortgage debt or any variable rate debt. So again, if we're in a tax bracket where it makes sense to use the RRSP in the first place, we can start throwing money in there knowing that, yes, I'm going to be saving for my retirement. It's definitely a goal of mine. But I'm getting these tax refunds back all the time. So the question is, what do I do with these? So if I have a mortgage, and let's say my variable rate mortgage went from 2% up to 6 or 7, that's going to feel pretty nasty on a monthly cash flow basis. But I'm still paying 6 or 7% on the debt. But if I put a dollar into my RRSP, I can save, say, 28% on that contribution. So I'm still definitely saving more by putting money into the RRSP. I get the refund back, and I can take that and apply it to the debt on my mortgage. Pay that down second. Do it in that order. Save the most tax first, pay off the smaller interest, even if it's on a larger loan, second. Now, what if I don't have a home? I therefore don't have a mortgage. But I really want to buy a home because they're, pretty reasonably priced here in the city. So if you take a dollar, same math, put it into the RRSP first, get the tax refund that the government gives you back, you can then take that tax refund and put it into something like a tax-free savings account or a first home savings account to further stretch your savings for the down payment. Now, how can we use the RSP for a down payment? It's under the first time home buyers plan, which says that we can lend ourselves from our own RSPs up to $35,000 to use as part of a down payment on our first home. And if we're married, both spouses can pull $35,000 from their RSPs. So that's $70,000 in total. So the RSP, using it to save for your first home, still makes a lot of sense because it's still giving you the tax refund to basically amplify your down payment. Now, once you get the tax refund back, you can put it into something like a first home savings account to even further that down payment and give you some more tax advantages. And I'll show you how. But before we do, let's talk about what the first home savings account is, because it really doesn't exist yet, though it will in a few months. Towards the end of this year, they will be officially launched here in Canada. The first home savings account is kind of giving you the best of the RSP world and the tax-free savings account world. You can put in $8,000, up to $8,000 per year into the first home savings account, up to a $40,000 lifetime limit. So $8,000 a year for 5 years gets that thing completely capped out. But what happens along the way? If you put $8,000 into this account, what is happening? It's giving you the benefits that the RSP does up front. It allows you to deduct the $8,000 of contributions off your income, and it will give you the tax refunds just like an RSP will. Now on the backside, when you pull the money out of the first home savings account, it's tax-free, like a tax-free savings account. And you never have to put it back in, like a tax-free savings account. So it's giving you all the tax advantages up front that an RSP does, but it's giving you all the tax advantages on the way out like a tax-free savings account does. So let's look at an example of what this might look like when we use both the RSP and the first home savings account. Let's look at Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They each earn $65,000 a year, which means they're both in a 28% marginal tax bracket. So if they, as a couple, contribute $10,000 into their RSPs throughout the year, they are going to get an annual tax refund of $2,800, or 28% of the $10,000 they contributed. So what do they do with the $2,800? They can put that into the first home savings account, which does what? It also allows them to further write their income down, deduct those contributions off their income, and get another tax refund, still at 28%. So they're going to get a tax refund from the first home savings account of about $750, or 28% of $2,800. Now what do they do with that refund? They can put that in their tax-free savings account now, right, to further amplify their down payment. So now they started, think about this, they started with $10,000 and they just started by putting it in the RSP. Using all of the refunds that come back and placing them in the right accounts along the way, they've turned $10,000 into $13,550, a rate of return of 35.5% without even investing their money. That is what we call financial yoga. That is a little limber trick we use to save for first-time home buyers. Now, what if you're saying, this is all great, John, but I don't have a mortgage, I already own my first home, I still want to save for retirement, but I got these kids, and these kids might be around for a little while, and they're definitely going to go to school, which should be applauded, but I want to help them. What can I do? Well, again, you still want to save for retirement, so we still use the RSP first. Why? Because the RSP still gives us the tax refund to play with, so to speak. So if we use the RSP example again, we put money into the RSP, we get a tax refund back, we can put the tax refund into an RESP, and that is for the kids' education. When you put money into an RESP, the government will match your contribution by 20%. They will cap their grant at $500 annually. So in other words, don't put more than $2,500 into an RESP per child per year. The government will not give you any more free money after that, and if there's no more free money, you've lost my interest. So let's look at an example of what this might look like with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So if you may remember from a few seconds ago when I brought them up, Mr. and Mrs. Smith make $65,000 a year and are still in a 28% tax bracket. So we'll use the same math. They had $10,000 to save throughout the course of the year, and they decided to save that into an RSP first, giving them the same tax refund of $2,800. They have one child in this example, just to make my math work. So they take their $2,500 of their $2,800 refund and they put that into their RESP. The government immediately matches that by $500 with the grant. So now their RESP is worth $3,000, their RRSP is worth $10,000, and they still have $300 left to play with. So again, if we just look at the calculations or the rate of return on this sort of strategy, Mr. and Mrs. Smith have effectively taken $10,000 and turned it into $13,300, or a rate of return of 33%. Again, without even investing the money. So, as you can see, the RSP, which generally gets a bad name for some reason from time to time, is actually quite a useful tool that we can all take advantage of to help stretch our dollars a little further. So again, these are just little ways, a couple little tips and tricks just to show you that when life stretches you, there are ways to stretch back. So I hope you all feel a little more financially limber, but if you do have any questions, we always invite people to talk to us about this. We can talk your ears off about the most boring of materials, including this, so please feel free to reach out, and happy stretching.